Good morning, everyone. My name is Shashank Shenoy, and I'm a student of Class 12 and the head boy of the Student Council, and I'll also be a moderator for this event today. I'd like to welcome our principal, Manala ma'am, Vice Principal Preeti ma'am, coordinators, senior mistresses, teachers, and all students watching to the Alumni Panel Discussion College Edition. The panelists today are alumni from DPS East who are now studying subjects from different fields and interests from colleges all around the country and the world. The panelists will share their valuable experience of applying to college, studying in college, and also share words of advice and tips to students on how they can get into their dream college. Let us now get to know our panelists a little better. Our first panelist is Sneha Roy. Sneha?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning to all the teachers present here. My name is Sneha. I'm a rising second year at Ashoka University. I'm doing an economics major. I was in the DPS graduating class of 2020, and I'm really happy to be back. And I hope I can help everyone that's watching out. And I'm really thankful to the school for calling me back as well.
I would now like to invite Dhruv Kulshrestha to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dhruv, as you can see on the screen. I'm also from the batch of 2020. I'm currently studying honors mathematics and economics at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. I recently transferred from the University of Warwick in the UK. Apart from academic stuff, I've recently delegated at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. I'll be tutoring at the Econ department and teaching at the Math department this fall. And thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you, Dhruv. Our next panelist is Sneha Das. Sneha?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Sneha. I'm currently a second year at Christ Deemed to be University in Bangalore. I'm doing a triple major course in economics, political science, and sociology. And as you can see, other than my course, I'm also a part of the choir where I'm a section leader, and I'm also in the Center for Social Action. I was in the graduating batch of 2020 from DPS, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha. Next up, we have Jujar Singh.
Hey guys, so I was from the batch of 2020 as well, and right now I'm studying electrical engineering at IIT Bombay. And apart from that, I'm a part of a few clubs. I'm a part of the electronics club and also taking part in a student activity which basically builds a race car. Yeah, so I'm really thankful to the school for calling me, giving me the opportunity to be able to help the students of this school, right? So yeah, that's it.
That's very interesting, Tujar. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Aditya Balaji.
Hey everyone, I'm Aditya Balaji and I'm doing my second year BA LLB degree in Gender Global Law School. And I'm from the batch of 2020 as well. And I'm really glad to be speaking here in front of all of you. And I'd like to thank the school for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. And our final panelist for today is Tanvi Bharti.
Hi, my name is Tanvi. I graduated with a batch of 21. I just graduated. I'm a freshman at college. I'm majoring in design communication or graphic design. I also do photography and creative coding in college, and I studied commerce in 11th and 12th grade.
Thank you very much, Tanvi. These are our panelists for today, and we'll now be moving on to a few questions that students of DPS East have for our panelists. I'd like to invite Isha, who's a student of class 12 and a part of the student council to go ahead and ask her question.
Hi, I'm Isha. I have a question for Sneha Roy. What made you pursue your studies in a liberal arts college in India, especially since it's not looked upon very favorably? And what were your advantages of doing so?
All right. So I think I'll address the second part of that question first with regard to the advantages of liberal arts. So the biggest benefit of the liberal arts program, especially at Ashoka, is that it really gives you the scope to experiment within a wide variety of fields with a very strong focus on developing the skill of critical thinking. So what this does is, first off, not only does it allow you to gain knowledge in a wide variety of fields, but it also allows you to gain a deeper perspective on the subject that you will eventually decide to pursue. And this is by virtue of the fact that, in today's world, every subject is so interdisciplinary and everything is interrelated. So even for an economics major like me, studying subjects like philosophy or literature or the principles of science are actually helpful because of the values and skills I pick up along the way. And those become very relevant in economics. With regards to liberal arts not being looked upon very favorably in India, I would say that at the end of the day, it's you that's doing all the studying, and it's you that's doing the degree and putting in the hard work into the degree. So I would say that it's a lot more important for you to pursue something that interests you, and not so much do something that may not interest you but makes other people happy. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to do all the work, and it's really important for you to be interested in what you're doing. And you can never make everyone really happy. So just do what makes you and makes your family happy, and that's kind of the best you can do.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, I'm actually interested in the commerce field, and I'm looking to pursue my undergrad studies in India. Wanted to know, is there any specifics in the process of applying to these colleges, or anything I should keep in mind?
Right. So I think that again depends with what kind of avenue that you're choosing to take within. If you're pursuing, if say you want to go to DU, you want to try for SRCC and LSRM, those kinds of colleges, it's completely dependent on your board exam results. So if that's what the aim is, then I would say that just focus on your boards and trying to maximize that score to the best of your abilities. As opposed to if you're pursuing a liberal arts degree, which is becoming more increasingly common in universities like Kriya and Flame and Ashoka, obviously. They look for a more holistic approach to admissions. So in that case, it's not just your academics, but also your extracurriculars and the things that you're interested in apart from academics. And a couple of other well-known commerce colleges like Christ and Narsi Monji, they have their own entrance exam processes where you have to give a competitive exam to enter. So it completely depends on those three avenues. Those are the main three avenues in India that you can choose to take if you are pursuing commerce. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Isha. I'd now like to invite Akshat Kumar, who's a student of class 12 as well, to ask his question.
Yeah. So Dhruv, you've studied in colleges in both the United States and the United Kingdom. So what, according to you, was the major differences between the colleges in these two countries? And what was the process of transferring from a college in UK to a college in the US?
Thank you, Akshat. That is actually a really, really good question, because a lot of people who are considering to apply abroad are usually looking at these two major places as their priority options. And I would say that there's in terms of applying, at least, it is much easier to apply to the UK because they have a much more straightforward application. It's just one essay and stuff. But in terms of studying in both the countries, there are huge differences in the experience that you'll have. For example, if you're studying in the UK, you apply to a particular course, you do that particular course for the 3 years, and you graduate with that particular degree. You only do courses and classes that are related to that course and nothing else. Whereas in the US, the format is more liberal. You do a 4-year degree. It's a little more flexible in terms of what you can do, what you can't do. It's also a little better in terms of when you're not 100% sure about what you want to do. Okay, maybe you want to be in this area, but you don't know what your major needs to be. I would strongly recommend, if you're one of those people, to look at the US over the UK. And another major thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration is that, well, if you're going abroad, you're usually going abroad to also have the campus experience abroad. And colleges in the UK, especially in London, are not the kind of campus-oriented colleges. They're like a bunch of buildings scattered across the city. Not to say that they're not great colleges, of course they are, but if you're going abroad to experience that, you will definitely get a better experience in the US. Also, the US colleges are more focused on non-academic stuff as well, on extracurricular stuff as well, volunteering, all of that. And I would also say personally, from my experience as a non-citizen of either of these two countries, it is a bit easier for you to get more opportunities in the US just because of how big the college is, how many students there are, and how many different things are going on campus. So personally, for me, US was a better decision, and it really depends on what you're looking at. You also asked a bit about the transfer process, and rather than explaining the process to transfer, which is something no one needs to know right now, you're all like school kids, just worry about your first set of applications. But one thing I would say is that transferring kind of made me realize that it's never too late for you to know what you want to study or what you want to pursue. Like, you might finish a year at some place and then realize, well, this is definitely not what I want to do. And I definitely do not want to pursue this. And that's okay. That is valid. That is completely fine. And you still have the opportunity to do what you like to do, even if you've already enrolled in university. So I think that is like my biggest takeaway from that. But yeah, thank you for that question, Akshay.
Thank you for that,
Thanks
Dhruv
for
and
your
Akshay. Thanks. That was a great question too. I would like to move on and invite Swati to ask that question. Swati?
Hey guys, I'm Swati. So my question is to Sneha Das. You are currently doing a triple major in college and studying in Christ,
I believe Swati is facing some technical issues. We'll get back to her a little later.
Shashank is audible for us. I think Shashank is having.
I think I'm also not facing issues.
All right, Swati, I feel like you can just go ahead.
I think I'll go ahead, yeah. So to Sneha Das, you're currently doing a triple major in college and studying in Christ, which has a different application process, right, as compared to other colleges. So what is doing a triple major like? And can you brief me about the application process in Christ?
Thank you, Swati, for that question. I think that's a great question because I regularly have a lot of juniors who message me, and there are a lot of DPS kids who are looking to get into Christ. And so I think that's a great question. So first, I'll talk about the application process to Christ because that is the number one question that I get. So the application process to Christ, even though it's different from other universities, it's fairly simple. I would say, first of all, most of the information is on their website. So if you go onto their official website, they will tell you when applications are opening. And I think the first thing that you need to do is go through their courses and decide which courses you want to apply for. You can apply to multiple courses, obviously. So the first thing you do is go on, decide the courses that you want to apply, because most of the a set of courses open their application in December and set of them open a little later. So that's why I think you need to decide when and which courses you want to apply, so you know when to apply. And then you can just apply online. So basically they ask you to register on the website. And once you register, from that one registration ID, you can apply to as many courses as you want. So, and to look at the criteria of what you need to apply, like Sneha Roy said, that they looked at more of their entrance exam and their interviews more than what your extracurriculars are. They did ask for certificates and things like that, but the thing is, they're more focused on your scores in the entrance test and how you do in the interview. So the entrance test for most, I'm not quite sure what it is for the commerce section and the science section, but if you're looking to get into arts where I am, the entrance tests are fairly simple because they're very generic. So you'll have questions on logical reasonings and general knowledge, things like that. And your interview process is basically just three things. They'll ask you a couple of questions about yourself, your ice-breaking session. Then I think the most important bit is the subject-specific questions. So I would say if you've had those subjects that you're applying for in school, just go over your 11th and 12th portion again. And the last thing is something they call a micro presentation, where they give you a topic, you speak for a couple of minutes. And so if you're looking to find those topics online, you can find the list of those topics online as well if you want to apply for them as in you want to study them or do some research on them beforehand, but most of them are pretty generic. It's not something that you wouldn't know or wouldn't have anything to talk about. So that is the application process for Christ. And I believe you asked about triple majors. So I think the one thing that leads people to take a triple major is the fact that the subjects are all interrelated. And I think a lot, both Dhruv and Sneha said before that the subjects that most people take these days are interdisciplinary. And even from a perspective of employment, I believe employers look for people who have more diversified field of knowledge rather than just one subject, which is what led me to take 3 subjects. So I took economics, pol science, and sociology. So regardless of what I'm choosing to take in my master's or my field of employment, it will be easier for me to relate the knowledge from all 3 of these fields. And also you have the added benefit that you graduate with 3 degrees. So, you can take whatever you want in masters. So it is a lot of work, but I believe if it's something that you really want, then I think you can do it. And everybody has a different experience in college about how much work they can take or how much they find stressful. But I think what really matters is whether you really want to do it or not. Yeah. So thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Neha. That was in fact very informative. Next, I have a question to Jar as well. A lot of students move to full-fledged coaching centers after 10th grade to focus on their JEE preparations. However, you decided to stay on DPSE in 11th and 12th and went to crack the JEE. So how important do you think these coaching centers are to crack these competitive exams? And how did you personally manage without them?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Swati. I think it's a very important question because a lot of students are very confused after 10th grade on what to do, whether to stay in school and do coaching side by side, or go for an integrated program with a coaching, which is the full-fledged version. So yeah, as you said, I myself did not go for the full-fledged integrated program. I was in DPS East and I was doing classes from coaching side by side with that. So there are, for those who don't know what integrated is, it's basically that the coaching center ties up with the school, and then basically the students don't have to go to the school at all, and the coaching center manages all of it behind the scenes. And that program is good in a sense, but it also has downsides. So I'll just go over those quickly. So when you're in an integrated program, then of course you have more time, which is, I guess, the major advantage. You have more time for yourself. You have more time for your studies. You have more time to interact with your teachers and learn from them. But that also means that you don't have the school sort of experience, right? Because you won't really be going to school very often, except for a few things, I think, labs or exams or whatnot. So there's both upsides and downsides to that, because I felt, since I was in school and coaching, I felt like school provided me a really nice sort of refreshing break from my studies. And I feel like a coaching environment is a lot more competitive and not very chill, for lack of a better word. The school environment, on the other hand, is nice, and you get to meet with your friends. It's a good refresher, and I think that's very important for anyone to continue their studies properly. So on the question that you asked on coaching centers' importance, I think they're extremely important. Even if you don't go for a full-fledged integrated program, I think you should definitely, if you're planning to crack the JEE and you're serious about it, then you should definitely join a coaching center for sure. First of all, the material which they give is very targeted and really prepares you for the exam really well. I have seen cases of people who have cracked it without like any sort of form of coaching at all. But that is definitely rare, and it requires a lot of self-effort. And the coaching sort of helps you along with that. It's like a sort of a guiding hand, and it pushes you in the right direction. Apart from that, the teachers really provide a lot of good feedback and advice, so that's invaluable as well. yeah, so that's pretty much it about coaching and school, and going to a full-fledged coaching or uh, going to coaching side by side.
Okay, thank you, Jujar. In fact, that provided a different perspective to students back in BPSC. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Right. I'd now like to ask Akash to get and ask his question as well. Akash?
Thank you, Shashank. So I have a question for you, Aditya. My first question is, what do you feel like is the difference between the CLAT and the LSAT? And the second part of my question would be, what do you feel is the difference again between OP Jindal and NLUs in India? Because this comparison, I feel like would help a lot of law students make some better decisions.
Hey Akash, thanks for the question. And yeah, it's a pretty good question. Let me break it down for you. So when it comes to the difference between CLAT and LSAT, so CLAT is more strictly focused on the NLUs, the national law universities, which are, government colleges. And to be fair, they are top tier. They're one of the best you can get in India. And so on a technical grounds, they deal with like 5 sections, whereas LSAT is only with 3 sections, and it's solely focused on other colleges which are not NLUs. So okay, so the 5 sections that you're going to deal with in CLAT is logical reasoning, legal reasoning, English, quantitative analysis, and I'm not sure what the last one is because it's been a while. But yeah, you're going to deal with more sections than you would in LSAT, whereas LSAT is just analytical reasoning, logical reasoning, and comprehension. And to be fair, LSAT is fairly more easier than CLAT with the added benefit of no negative marking, whereas in CLAT, you're going to lose for like every 1 mark question. If you go wrong, you're going to lose 0.25 marks, which makes it harder. So yeah, these are the basic differences where CLAT is, CLAT is only for, NLUs, whereas LSAT is for other colleges that are not NLUs. Now, coming to the colleges in general. So Jindal is a private college, which means you're going to find more people and it's not as exclusive as NLUs. But what I did notice there is despite it not being as exclusive as the NLUs, the faculty is in fact amazing. I've come across, teachers who are all across the world. In fact, one of my professors for the first sem was from the US, which was an extremely, new experience for me, learning from someone who's not from this country. And secondly, you're going to find more extra curricular, activities over there, which gives you a platform to just diversify your portfolio and, your interest, which I'm not sure you would get in an NLU, which is a more strictly academic, oriented place. So I think these are the two major differences that you'd see. And besides that, there is the added problem of Jindal being more costlier than an NLU, which I think is a important factor to consider when you're joining there, and which was in my case I had to really contemplate a lot whether I had to go to Jindal or not. But in the end, so far, I'd say it's an amazing experience, and I sadly have never been to campus, but from what I've heard, it's a really fun place to be. You get to do a lot of stuff. You're around amazing people who are going to push you forward to do better in every field that is there. And yeah, that's all there is to say.
There, thank you. Again, my second question is, as someone who's gone through the entire process already, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from studying for these law entrance exams? And what would be your advice to these students who are currently trying to crack these exams?
Okay, so let me start off with what I didn't do. What I didn't do is put enough time or strategize how I should do. I figured it out a bit too late. So ideally, like I said, there are multiple sections, right? Figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. That's the first step. Once you familiarize with, what questions you're going to have, how the sections are, identify, what are your strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, general knowledge was the section I missed out on, which is the most important section. And this is your make or break section in CLAT at least. And this is one section I think everyone should really prepare for and it's the hardest section that is there. So one way to prepare for it is just keep, reading the newspaper every day. That's the only way you're going to go ahead with it. I'm sure you've heard it multiple times, but there's no other way around it. And this is one section I think you can focus on first when you're writing the exam, because you're going to be done with it quickly. Apart from that, you can, see what you're better at and attack those sections first, and then get to what you're not good at, what you're slow at. And don't waste time much on these questions. If you don't know, just skip to the next one, because there's no point. Do what you can first and then think about what you can't. That's all I'd say. And at the end of the day, I'd say, don't um, spend too much time studying too, because I'm the kind of person, who needs a proper balance between academics and extracurricular. And I'd say having that perfect balance will, ensure maximum efficiency. So figure out what works well for you. And yeah, that's all I can say.
Right, thank you so much, Aditya. Back over to you, Shashank.
Thank you very much, Akash and Aditya. Next up, I would like to invite Omera, who is a student of class 11, to ask a question.
Thank you, Shashank. Good morning, everyone. Here's my question for Tanvi Bharti. Considering design isn't a mainstream field, especially in India, how did you go about ranking colleges for it? And since it is not as easy to rank colleges for design as compared to colleges for law, STEM, or business. So what's your take on it?
So I feel like quantitative ranking doesn't do much, especially for creative majors like, art, design, performance arts. It really depends from person to person what you're looking for. So a big thing I feel, especially in the design community, is a lot of students don't really pursue their postgraduate studies. Now I will, because I want to specialize in user interface and experience design. That's a complete different, I need to study a lot more for that. But so one thing you need to look at is what percentage of your university's graduates are landing jobs, one, and two, what percentage of these jobs are at well-established companies? How many students are really making it right after they graduate? Another thing, as Dhruv pointed out before, was to look at the academic culture that your college is willing to provide for you. So if I compare like US versus probably the UK and Singapore. So actually, my college is a sister college of Goldsmiths University of London in the UK, and they share the same curriculum and stuff like that. So I feel like one other thing to consider is that UK and Singapore might tend to be much more academic in nature. They won't have that campus feel. Like my campus is beautiful, but it's not like a US university. It's just two buildings. So a huge thing to look at is like, what are you looking for? So colleges in, even design colleges in the UK and Singapore might not offer like that, that sorority kind of experience to you, if that's what you're looking for. Another thing is researching academic modules and course information is really important again. And also I feel like for design in specific, it's really, really important according to me to like study in an interdisciplinary environment. I applied to the UK, France, and Singapore and India, and I made it a point that most of my colleges were places that offered majors other than design and art too, because especially year 2 onwards, you're going to start doing a lot of collaborative work, and it's really, it'll just like make your work much better as not just a student, but like as an actual professional later, if you can learn from like people around you. And one more thing, how diverse is your teaching faculty? Right now, like I have teachers from all parts of the world, from the US, the UK, Germany, Spain, India. And I feel like that's really important, especially again in art and design, because you get like inputs from like design schools all around the world. Design is very it's like art, it's extremely subjective. So these main 3-4 points are what I took in mind while selecting my colleges after decisions.
Thank you, Tanvi.
Thank you very much for all those extremely great questions. I really learned a lot personally from them too. I would now like to dwell a little deeper into whatever we've spoken about. We might have touched upon a few things while the questions were being asked, but I would like to dig a little deeper into it and move on to a discussion, an open discussion. So my first question that I would like to ask everyone here is, how do you start by choosing your subjects and getting what you want to study in college, right? All of us here are studying subjects from different fields and disciplines. And I think, it'd be good if we start talking about deciding your subjects and fields first. So how did you guys decide on the field of study and then your majors or specific subjects that you wanted to study? And basically that. So right, Aditya, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Shashank. So when it comes to law, I think in India at least, most of the colleges, usually give two options: a BA LLB or BB LLB. So your BA is nothing but Bachelor of Arts, and BB is nothing but Bachelor of Business Administration. So now this is a dilemma I faced when I wanted to, this when I was deciding what to take up. BBA, the LLB aspect is common, but what makes a difference is the BA and BBA. So the BA subjects usually have something like sociology, political science, history, economics, and BBA has your usual commerce subjects like, you know, business studies, accountancy, economics, and stuff like that. Now, I think a lot of students face the same issue because they can't decide what they want to do, and so did I. So I took a BA LLB because I wanted to change in subjects. I took up commerce in 12th, so I thought, let me try and diversify and learn new things. So I took a BA LLB, but students, who are familiar with art subjects, can go ahead with BA LLB. And, those who are comfortable with commerce subjects can go ahead with BB LLB. And it doesn't really make a difference because you will be learning these subjects only for the first 2 years of your college. And the time period is like 5 years for these courses. So the first 2 years, you'll have most of your subjects would be BA or BBA, while one or two subjects would be law subjects. And once you get into your third year, all subjects are, your LLB subjects. So it doesn't matter what you do, as long as, whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you think is easy for you to score in, or where your interests lie, what you want to learn. So I think that's all matters. I don't think anyone should, break their head over what to choose when it comes to law, at least. It's just a matter of personal preference in the end. And yeah, that's it.
Right. Dhruv, do you want to go ahead and answer that? Because I wanted you to answer it as well, because the field that you're interested in has you can study wide range of subjects under that as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, you're right about that, Shashank. Now, when you're thinking about choosing the subject or the major or the course that you're going to study in college, you obviously have to look at what you're interested. You obviously have to look at what is being offered, and you also have to look at more practical things like whether you'll get into your choice of grad school or whether you'll be employable and things like that. Now, personally, and I think this is something Sneha would also agree to, if you're in a university that has a more liberal academic format, it would be easier for you to evaluate all of your options before streamlining into a particular field. In your first year at a liberal arts university, you have to do these gen ed requirements or distribution requirements or whatever they call it different things, but that basically lets you explore the sciences, the humanities, the social sciences, and everything in between. So if you're not sure about what you want to do, I think liberal arts is a very, very good option. However, if you're certain that you want to go into a technical field, or you want to go to a business school or do medical in India or even abroad, I think in that case, rather than evaluating what your major is going to be, you have to pay more attention to where you will be applying in the first place, because different places offer the same degree in different ways, right? Yeah, Shashank, I think that's my input on that question.
Right, right. Um, right. So is there anyone else who would like to, go ahead and jump into the discussion? Fair enough. So right, we've spoken about subjects and majors, and the next thing that comes while you're applying to college is shortlisting your colleges. That's extremely, extremely important. So how did you guys go about shortlisting your college, and what factors do you think you need to keep in mind while shortlisting or looking at the colleges that you want to apply to, and especially abroad as well, because then there are a lot of other things that you need to keep in mind. So I'd really like to know what you guys went through as well. So Sneha, do you want to go ahead and answer that first?
Right. So I didn't answer the previous question because I feel like it kind of ties in with this question.
Right.
So for me, the reason that I decided to go to Ashoka, and more specifically a liberal arts program, and this kind of extends on what Dhruv was saying about if you don't know what you want to do, liberal arts is a really good option. I knew that I wanted to do an economics major, and I decided to do liberal arts because I wanted to have that exploration opportunity. Because growing up in school, especially once you branch off into your streams, if you take commerce, you don't really have the opportunity to test out or see whether you like humanities subjects or whether you like science subjects. And the liberal arts program really, really allows you to test the waters just for one semester. So if you like it, you can take it up as a minor or an interdisciplinary major. So for me, that was the biggest advantage of taking liberal arts, is that even though I knew I wanted to do economics, it still gave me the opportunity to study history, which I'm also very interested in. And I took a Shakespeare class in my first semester, which I always wanted to do, but didn't really have the opportunity to do so before. And next semester, I'm taking a philosophy class. So even though I'm doing, like I mentioned before, I'm doing an economics major, but I'm actually having such a wide variety of disciplines. And that's also the same reason that I ended up deciding to do an economics major, is because the field and the study of economics itself is sort of an amalgamation of every subject imaginable. It has everything in it. And it's sort of like a whole macro level, high level view of everything and how every subject interconnects with each other. And with regards to picking colleges, for me, it was that the experimentation. I also applied to Christ, and I was going to apply to DU, but since I got into Ashoka, I decided to go against. I did not apply to DU. What I did actually was I applied to Ashoka in the first round. So I got my confirmed seat of admission in January of my 12th grade. So before I even gave my boards, I knew for sure that I had a college in my back. So if any of you want that kind of security, I would 100% recommend going for Ashoka. I think Flame and Kriya also offer opportunities like these where you can get a confirmed seat of offer before you give your board exams, because that was also very important for me. Because as a commerce student, you constantly hear that board exams are where it's at, board exams are where you need to do amazing. And that kind of pressure can be very, very debilitating for someone that may suffer from like anxiety and panic attacks anyway. So I would say that that was a very big factor for me as well, that Ashoka would tell me that I got in for sure before my board exams even happened. So yeah, I think that about answers all the questions.
True, fair. Dhruv, you want to go ahead and answer that as well?
Yeah, no, I know that the second bit of your question focused on what factors you look at when you're applying abroad. So I thought I'll just weigh in on that.
Yeah.
Now, what you focus on when you're applying to university, it really, really depends on what you want out of your college experience. Maybe it's situation, maybe it is the location, maybe you have family living in a particular part of the world and you want to be close to them. Maybe it's internships and part-time work and grad school opportunities or scholarships in financial aid or research, whatever it is that you want to do, that is the main factor that you have to look at when you're applying abroad. Because what most people do is they only focus on the ranking. And although I agree it is important to look at how highly ranked universities are, a lot of the times ranking websites only focus on the academic aspect, which is obviously important because you're going to university for the academic part. But at the same time, you should be somewhere where you're comfortable, where it's like a more holistic learning environment for you. And it also ticks all the boxes of other things that you focus on. Like, again, all of the opportunities that I was talking about. And the other thing which you should also maybe look at is if you're if you already have a really heavy course load for 11th and 12th, maybe you don't want to apply to every single country on the planet, right? Because you have to fill in applications, write essays, get letters of recommendation for every single place that you'll be applying to. And if you're preparing for like exams in India, maybe applying to 20 countries is not the right thing to do. So really weigh in on which places you would like to study in, which colleges fit your description of a good college, not the ranking website's description of a good college, and then fill your applications.
Makes sense. So yeah, I think what you expect from a college is very subjective and differs from student to student. That completely makes sense. Tanvi, do you want to go ahead and answer that as well?
Yeah, I was gonna until Dhruv said the exact same point that I was gonna say. But yeah, also no, actually I want to counter one point. This is not a debate, but I would like to counter a point. You can apply to India and abroad. That's what I did. I was actually set to write every single competitive exam for design. I've been preparing since 10th grade for the IIT and NID and NIFT, no, IIT and NID design exams. And it is very possible to do, but the thing is you have to prep beforehand. I know applications are different. I applied to 3-4 countries. They're very different in every country. And my main thing is I've seen this a lot with my batch, and I hope it doesn't happen to like people I've been talking to in the batch of 22, that everyone starts very late. You cannot sit in August, especially for art and design, because you have to have an extensive portfolio of your art, which has to be new and what the college likes. So you cannot sit in August, July, August and be like, yeah, I want to design in this country. It's not going to work out. You need to start like a year in advance. Otherwise, you're not going to go abroad. It's really hard.
I like how you brought up, you know, the portfolio that's required, because I was just going to go on to that after this. College portfolios and like building your portfolio. It's like probably the most important thing, and you need to start working on it, as Tanvi said, like a few years prior to when you're actually going to college. So what do colleges actually look at in your portfolio? What are the things that you need to have? And when do you need to start building it? And what are a few things that you would advise students to put in, you know, to stand out amongst like the other applications that colleges get? Sneha, go ahead and answer that.
Sure. So I'll take the part of when should you start working on your portfolio. I think that most universities, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but most universities only look at your portfolio from 9th grade and above. So only your extracurriculars and things in high school. So I would say that, you know, for me, I knew I was going to take commerce from pretty early on, and DU was the only option for a long time, but I still kept, and where, you know, like extracurriculars are not as important because it's mainly about the board marks. I still, my parents and I still thought it'd be prudent to, you know, keep my extracurriculars going just in case I changed my mind. And I did end up changing my mind. So I feel like 9th grade, obviously that does not mean that if you're in 10th or 11th, you cannot start. 9th grade would be probably the safest bet with starting on working on your extracurriculars that you want to put in your application. So this can be things like leadership is something that universities really value, like student council positions and outside leadership, volunteering experience, entrepreneurship experience, or even like with regards to extracurriculars like hobbies and things, if you have like music certificates. Like, for example, I've been giving music exams from a very young age. So even though I started those before 9th grade, I still have the lifelong certification. So I finished all my 8 grades in the 12th grade. So I was still able to submit those. And just trying to keep a very holistic view that makes the person that's reading your application look at you as someone that's not just a percentage of board exams on paper and is more than that. And, you know, you should be open to speaking about all of these things when you're at your interview. For example, I actually took my guitar with me to one of my interviews and I played a song for my interviewers. And that obviously it was a chance. It was a chance I took, you know, walking into the interview room with my guitar, but I would like to think that it did pay off in the end. So I would say really focus on extracurriculars as an addition to your personality, and don't just do them for putting them on a college application, because then you will not enjoy them. And even things that you found fun will become chores and will become work. So yeah, I think that's about it.
I have never heard anyone walk into an interview with a guitar. That is news to me. That's new. Tanvi, do you want to come into the discussion as well?
Yeah. So for I think one place where I'm different from everyone is like I'll talk about 2 different aspects of my portfolio. One is my actual creative portfolio, which is what's actually used for evaluation in art and design colleges, and the other is the extracurriculars and like your personality and what college sees first. So I'll keep the art part short. So they don't want to see the best work. They don't want the best artists. You have to show that you are willing to learn. You know how to create content and you're creative. You don't have to be great at painting. You don't have to be great at drawing. That's okay. That doesn't really matter. Yeah. And a huge thing that admission officers love is when your extracurriculars aren't directly related to what you're majoring in. So I personally did not have a lot of opportunities. I don't have any opportunities to, do art and design extracurriculars from DPS. And I don't mind about that because I was so wrapped up in like debate and MUN. And that was really cool because I had a lot of those credentials on my application. And yeah, as Neha said, your volunteer work, your internship, stuff like that. So try including that. Yeah, pretty much that's it.
That's interesting because I've always been told, do things that would help you in college. And I always assumed that if I wanted to do something in college, I would have to do extracurriculars that were similar or that were related to what I wanted in college. And that's interesting you brought that point up. That's good. Dhruv, you want to come into the discussion?
Yes, I do. I agree with most of what both Sneha and Tanvi said, except for like a couple of things. So I'll address those first very quickly. Now, it is important for you to have like a portfolio and make sure that it's focused on high school, like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. However, I only realized that I wanted to apply abroad in between 12th. So I could not have possibly imagined building my portfolio from 9th grade. And that is fine. That is perfectly fine because I still got into college, right? So even if you're not sure about applying abroad or about applying to places that need you to market yourself, it's perfectly fine. You'll be able to figure out even in between like 11th and 12th. And the other thing that I wanted to weigh in on is when Tanvi said that college is really like if you have extracurriculars that are not focused on what you will be studying. I agree with that 100%. You need to have a diversified portfolio. You need to have like you don't need to, but you could have volunteering paired with maybe debate and MUN and things like that. But at the same time, particularly if you're applying to colleges that are more academic oriented, especially the top few in maybe the UK or Canada, it is important that you try to correlate your extracurriculars with your academic interests, or even if it's not in the same subject, that is perfectly fine. However, you need to try to make sure that your portfolio makes sense to them. And the way for you to do that is tie it all together. Again, make sure it's diverse. So I already said that, but it is important that you don't put 10 debates or 10 football tournaments on your portfolio, and try to make it at least a bit more diversified than that. But yeah, that's about it. I agree with everything else.
Yeah, I was muted. Aditya, do come in the discussion.
Yeah, so I'm gonna diverge off a bit over here because I will be dealing with portfolios, but not before college. I mean, I'm strictly talking about law because colleges in India, I mean, I can only speak for colleges in India. What I've noticed so far, they don't really see what you've done before you get into the college. But okay, so the important thing is when you're doing law, it's course mandated that you have to intern every summer or winter break, and this is really important. So you need to do like around 20 weeks of internships during this period throughout your 5 years. And if you do this will you be able to pass the bar council, so which is very important for students to know. And this is something I faced. I didn't necessarily find proper internship and stuff, and nor did I do much otherwise extracurricular wise. But I think it's important for students to remember that while you're in college, you have 5 years of time, and there are so many opportunities available to you, and you can utilize this time effectively, and you can take help of others too in order to try out new fields. And the most important thing is just get out of your comfort zone. Don't you know sit idle and feel like I'm not going to do well over here, so I'm not going to take part, or there are people who are much better than me. Stop looking at others, look at yourself, get out of your comfort zone, and just go for it. Doesn't matter if you fail. I think failure is very important. I think students really need to understand that failure is fine. It's okay to fail. you learn from it, you move on, and you just, keep trying out new stuff. Because in law, it's very important that, you try out new stuff. There's something called ADR, which is alternate dispute resolution, or moot court society, which, simulate real life things that, usually people in the field of law do. And these are something which will play really important to say as what kind of lawyer you might become later. And it's important for students to take part in these events too. And apart from that, even sports, because, what happens before you join the college doesn't really matter when you get in. But once you do get in, these are really important for students to, discover themselves, what their interests are, and what they can do and what they're good at. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say. Just be fearless and just get out of your comfort zone and try out new stuff.
Thank you for bringing that up, Aditya. Yeah, I think a lot of times we forget like the portfolio building process lasts well even after you've gone into college, not just before. So great. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And Jujar, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So actually, I would like to go over the last question because the previous one, because I got disconnected. I want to answer that one.
Sure.
So I'll just go ahead and say something about that. So when you're applying for a STEM kind of thing, and especially on the non-bio side, then you don't really get to sort of pick your subject or pick your college as such. It's more of picking what kind of a stream you want, and what kind of a broad category of college you want. For example, I'll just go over a few small things. Like, say you're more interested in science than engineering, then you're better off writing exams like KVPY and ICER's SCB stream, through which you can get admission to ICER's and IISc. So those are like the premier science colleges in India. And apart from that, if you're interested in engineering, then you have to focus on different kind of exams. Then you have to focus on JEE mains, you have to focus on JEE advanced, you have to focus on CETs, which are like the state exams, and you have to focus on your private college exams if you're going that way. So that's all I want to say pretty much about, it's less about picking your subject or your college as such. It's more about picking the broad area you want to work in, or the broad category of colleges that you're targeting. And then based on that, you have to sort of mold your preparation in a way to be able to crack those particular colleges or exams.
Right. Yeah. So I think we've spoken about like much of what happens before college and all that we have to do. Now here's the other thing that I want to address, right? All of this, picking your college, thinking about what you want to study, writing your entrance tests, preparing for your entrance tests, all of this is very, very stressful. And especially for a student in 12th grade who already has like his boards coming up, they have other stuff to do in school. You have to handle your extracurriculars. How did you guys handle the stress and the just the anxiety of the whole process? And how do you have any tips to give on how you can manage both your application stress and also have a life? So how did you guys go about that? Sneha, go ahead.
Shashank, I completely agree with the stress part. It is inordinately stressful. And now that we're out of it, this may sound kind of, I don't know, may sound patronizing a little bit, but now that we've been away from this for 2 years, I can see how young you are in 12th grade. Like when you're going through that level of stress, it's really, really scary. And you asked about like relaxation and stuff, and my advice probably sounds like it's completely opposite, but honestly, schedule everything. I cannot stress on the importance of scheduling. Even scheduling relaxation is so important, because if you get into the groove of constantly studying application, you get into that cycle, you just will not get out, and you will just never take a break, and you will lose sleep over it, and you won't sleep, and you won't be well rested. And just an endless cycle of making your own both physical and mental health worse. And so I would really, really harp on the focus scheduling everything. Try to take time out, to go outside, go for walks. Now that we are in the middle of a pandemic, it's so much harder to also just leave your house and go meet your friends and things that you would be able to do otherwise, because when I was in 12th grade and when all of us 2020 grads were in 12th grade, we at least had going to school as sort of like a bit of a release where we could spend time with our friends. And you no longer have that. So going out, taking walks, looking at the sky a little bit, staring at the ceiling, not looking at your screen, is so important. And even finding like a hobby that you have not turned into an extracurricular activity to go on your CV is also really important. Like for example, I play both the piano and the guitar, and piano was what I put on my resume because I gave the exams, but guitar I always kept separate as a hobby because I knew that if I did exams and stuff, it would become a chore. So sort of that kind of the guitar and the music, that became my release. So those are the three main things: schedule, go for walks, and have a hobby that is not that you haven't like monetized for your college application, or how you can sort of minimize the stress that is so large. So yeah.
Right. Aditya, do you want to go ahead as well?
Yeah, thanks, Shashank. So, like Sneha said, scheduling is extremely important, and that's something I didn't do till like the last minute. And I'll be very straightforward. Stress is never gonna go. It only gets worse. I'm sorry to break it to you, but that's how it is. But the way you manage your stress during, these period of entrance exams, once you figure that out, you can use the same thing throughout your life. And trust me, they work. They'll be really helpful. So what I did was, I found time to, play the guitar when I'm unwinding, when I'm not studying, or I work out, or I play a sport. And I'd say having something like this is very important for you so that it allows you to disconnect from the subject that you're dealing with for some time. So once you get back to it, you're going to perform even better. And yeah, it's equally, like I said before, it's equally important to maintain a good balance between studies and your life outside studies. And no one's asking you to, put in like 8 hours of studying every day. Just do what works well with you and utilize the rest of your time, ensuring that your stress levels are reduced. And that's all I'd have to say. Find a few things that you can do, and once you figure out what it is, you can utilize them for the rest of your life. And they, trust me, it really helps.
Tanvi, go ahead.
So clearly not Aditya and Sneha's case, but I was always terrible at scheduling. I did not get the hang of it even at the last moment. So if you have that problem too, I feel like the best thing you can do for yourself is figure out when in the day you are the most productive. Because one thing, yeah, obviously online school was not really nice for like my social life and stuff, but a great benefit I had was I had so much time for myself and for my college applications that I was able to a lot, if not like a proper schedule, I had times that I'm going to do certain things. Like I am most productive at night. So if that's the case with you, then like it's fine, stay up till like 3 4, sleep till 12 and finish all your work at night. Just get it done, that's it. And yeah, it will get better, trust me. Like I have like it's only been 2 weeks of college, but I have more work now than I've had in like 12th ever. Like the workload's never been more intensive, but like I've learned that I work better at night, so I do all my work at night and I'm relaxed. It's fine. Have time for your social life, go out, meet your friends, wear your mask, it'll be fine.
Dhruv, you want to jump into this? Go ahead.
I think Jujar raised his hand first.
Okay, go ahead, Jujar.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, yeah, I agree with everything that the previous answers included, and yeah, that's completely accurate, very important. I'd also like to add that the way they said about scheduling, yeah, time management is probably the most important thing you're gonna wanna work on, right? Because if you can manage your time, then you're gonna do better, and you're gonna reduce the pressure on yourself, right? Apart from that, if you are working, I mean, going through the school way, right, the school path, and not in a full-fledged coaching, then I think it's very important that you, in school at least, you try to interact with your friends and have fun with them, and don't just keep studying the whole time, right? That's one thing. Apart from that, I think if you have, of course, you will have time, but I think a lot of times we don't spend enough time with our family because we're busy with our phone, or we're watching movies, or we're watching serials, right? So I think that's important. I think you should spend time with your family. And the last thing related to stress is that you shouldn't think about the end result, right? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and your job is just to try your best, and put your best foot forward, right? So those are the few things I want to say.
Right. Dhruv, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry again, Shashank. Just before I go, Sneha Das has a technical issue. Her raise hand button is not working. So,
Right.
Sneha, do you want to go?
Yeah,
ahead,
thank
Sneha.
you. Thank you so much. So I think related to stress, I think the one thing that I want to say is listen to yourself, like listen to what your body is telling you. And it's not just important when you're going through 12th or your applications, but also when once you do get into college. I think I don't know about other people's experience, but I think I looked at my personal health more in 12th than I did even in 10th, because I don't know if this happened for everybody, but once I finished 10th, like during 10th, while I was preparing for my boards, I would stay up until like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then sleep for like 3 hours and then get up and go to school. And I just physically was unable to do that after that. Like the next 2 years, I could not stay up past 12 a.m. So I think this is sort of like your body's way of telling you that you're stressed, you need to take some rest. And I think it's insanely important to do that during college as well. So like these days, even if, like Tanvi said, if you're more productive during the night, yeah, sure, go ahead, stay up. But I think if your body's telling you that you're really tired, then just postpone your work and go to sleep, because there's no way you'll be productive if you don't actually listen to what your body's trying to tell you. And yeah, like Sneha said, go out. So what I did was, I live in a layout, so it's much easier for me to just go out for a walk, even if I'm not meeting someone. So I made sure that I kept times like either 1 hour in the morning or 1 hour in the evening, where I would just go out, even if like just take my phone or listen to music or talk to someone on call. But I made sure to get out of the house, because I realized that staying at home was so much more stressful for me than just like, it was so much better for me once I actually went out. So yeah, I think for managing stress, you just need to take a break sometimes. I know that there's going to be a lot of work, and like even once you get into college, there is a lot of work where you think that, how am I going to get things done, and I can't possibly take a break right now. But I think it's really, really important that you do take that break, because even if you don't, you're not going to be able to finish any of your work. And yeah, that's about it. And oh yeah, one thing I wanted to add about the profile building. So um, as you know, so when you go to Christ, they look at more of your academic aspects rather than what extracurriculars you did. But also they do ask you, like in your ice breaking session or things like that, they'll say, tell me about yourself, or what are the extracurriculars that you did in school. I think what they're looking from that perspective is not exactly what you did, but what you learned from it. So it's sort of like when you sit down for an interview and they ask you, what are you bringing to the table, or what are your qualities? So it's kind of those things. So find a way to look at your extracurriculars and relate it to what you've learned from that, so that you can show them diversified qualities of your personality. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, this is basically marketing yourself is something that we
Exactly.
also talked about, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Right, Dhruv, go ahead.
Yes, Shashank. Okay. A lot of people have already said a lot of things, and I don't want to repeat all of this stuff. I just agree with every single thing that's been said so far. I just want to add that, well, a couple of people said that it is stressful and it gets more stressful. You never get rid of the stress. I would just like to add that by the time you're in college, you're kind of used to a heavy workload, and that's not something that you're used to in school, because you just jumped from 10th to 11th, regardless of which board you're in. You have double or triple the workload. So it is more painful to handle the stress when you're still in school. Um, And I mean, 9th to 12th is already painful. You have heavy workloads. Some of you are preparing for like entrances and the SAT and college applications, and you're doing like 300 extracurriculars. I just think it is very, very important for you to figure out some way to take out time for yourself, even if it's just lying on your bed and listening to music for like 30 minutes. That is still fine. Like just something for you to breathe. Um, Now, a lot of people talk about like work-life balance. I'm very good at scheduling the work part. I'm not very good with the life or with the balance. I think that is something that you should also focus on, how to schedule free time. I know it sounds like an oxymoron. You need to do it. Um, and another very important thing is if you don't know what's going on and if you're not sure about what you're doing, and if you are stressed out, reach out to someone, talk to your seniors, talk to your peers, talk to someone about it. Because a lot of your peers will be going through the exact same thing that you're going through, or maybe if not the exact same thing, similar things to what you're going through. And their input might just be what you need to do better at school and at your balance part. Um, yeah, and reach out to your teachers. Like, although it is still online and you can't physically go up to them, it I think talking to teachers about, ma'am, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I took science, help. That was probably like the most helpful part of 11th and 12th for me, just reaching out to my teachers and telling them I need help. And it is difficult to reach out for help, but sometimes it is more important than dealing with all of your stuff at the same time by yourself. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's finish this segment in the discussion with Aditya. Go ahead. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just have a few more points, I think, which is very important, especially considering the times that we're living in.
Right.
So it's very important to prioritize both physical and mental health. And I think people should, take some time off their devices. It can be 20 to 30 minutes. That's still something, it doesn't have to be very long. It can be as short as 20 to 30 minutes. But I think it's very important for people to take time off their devices, go off social media for some time, just spend some time with themselves or their family, or just, go out, spend time with the nature and stuff. It's very important to disconnect from the social world, the online social world. And that gives you a lot of perspective too. And it's very important. I can't stress how important it is. It really does wonders. It did for me. And yeah, just like adding on to Dhruv said too, I think it's very important to ask for help. You shouldn't really think twice or thrice before you ask help, because understanding someone else's perspective and experience really puts things into perspective for you. And yeah, and we are social creatures at the end of the day, and we require other people in our lives, and working together is what, brings out the best in us. I think that's what we should do.
Right. Very, very, very informative, especially the last question. I think everyone spoke and everyone gave advice, and that's really important. I really feel like that's something that you cannot get off anywhere else. You can only get information on how you can de-stress and all of that from your seniors and from people who've been there. So great session. I really, really enjoyed it. This is invaluable pieces of advice that I personally have gotten, and I'm sure students watching have benefited from all of this greatly too. So I wish everyone all the best for their college applications, whoever is watching. And yeah, I would like to thank, first of all the panelists for taking time out. All of you guys are in college. Everyone spoke about the workload that they have. They still took time out to be here to, answer some questions that students have, give advice, give tips. And I'm really, really, I'm really, really happy to be moderating this event as well. I personally learned a lot, and I'm sure the teachers and I'm sure the students have learned a lot too. I'd like to thank all the students for coming up with great questions. And I would also like to thank Manala ma'am, Vice Principal Preeti ma'am again for making this possible, for making getting all of these guys together and making this interaction possible for the students. I'd also like to thank Srinidhi ma'am for using her, technical prowess and, to get this logistically done. It was tough, and I'd like to give her a big thanks for getting this done as well. I'd also like to thank all the HODs for being here and all the teachers for being here as well. So with that, I would like to end the session, extremely productive session. And I hope we can meet soon. I hope all of you can continue working on your applications, and I'm sure you're going to do well as well. Thank you very much, guys.